Gopidana-vallabha Girivara-dhare Yashoda-nandana Brajajana-ranjana Yashoda-nandana Brajajana-ranjana Yamunatira-vanachare Yamunatira-vanachare Jayo Radha Madhava Kunda Bihare Jayo Radha Madhava Kunda Bihare Jayo Gopidana-vallabha Girivara-dhare Jayo Gopidana-vallabha Girivara-dhare Yashoda-nandana Brajajana-ranjana Yashoda-nandana Brajajana-ranjana Yamunatira-vanachare Yamunatira-vanachare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihare Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Radhe Jaya Giri Govardhan Giri Govardhan Giri Govardhan Giri Govardhan Jaya Panchatattva 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 Jaya Panchatattva Jaya Prahlada Singha Prahlada Singha Prahlada Singha Jaya Prahlada Singha Prabhupada, 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 Jaya, Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gora Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gora Hari Bol. हरि नाम संकीर्तन यज्ञ की जाए, ग्रंथरा श्रीमद् भागवतम की जाए, वेंकटेश भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी शिल प्रभुपाद की जाए, इसको गुरु वृंद की जाए, समवेत भक्त वृंद की जाए। All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददति स्वपदान्तिकं पञ्चकौपतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पश्चादेशतरिणे श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर शिवसति गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे बुधाय महत्प्रेमा पुरोविभूर निर्मय क्षते नमुषु पुरुषा Mungte ganan sadasa sadasatmaka ilang krishishta bhagavan vachamsi me. Hare Krishna. So, Siddham Mayapur is the place of causeless mercy. That's why you see someone who is not even a devotee, but only trying to become a devotee, speaking on the topics of Srimad Bhagavatam. So I can say something of a value only with your kind blessings upon me. And so, especially, I request our senior Vaishnavas, Srila Prabhupada disciples, Maharajas, and actually all of you to pray for me that I would be able to say something which is in line with the definition of austerity of speech from Śrīmad Bhagavad-gītā, chapter 17, text 15, Anudvegakaram vakyam satyam priyam hitam chaya, which is not disturbing, pleasing, useful and beneficial. Hare Krishna. And beneficial first of all for myself, because this is something I can derive greatest benefit from. So we continue reading from the third canto, chapter 24, the renunciation of Kardama Muni, text 28, which is on board. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. bahu-janma-vipakvena. bahu-janma-vipakvena. samyag-yoga-samādhinā. samyag-yoga-samādhinā. draṣṭuṁ yatante yatayaḥ. draṣṭuṁ yatante yatayaḥ. śūnya-agāreṣu yat-padam. śūnya-agāreṣu yat-padam. bahu-janma-vipakvena. samyag-yoga-samādhinā. draṣṭuṁ yatante yatayaḥ. śūnya-agāreṣu yat-padam. bahu-janma-vipakvena,
make it bigger.
samyag-yoga-samādhinā,
draṣṭuṁ yatante
draṣṭuṁ yatante yatayaḥ, śūnya-agāreṣu
śūnya-agāreṣu
yat-padam, bahu-janma-vipakvena, samyag-yoga-samādhinā, yatante yatayaḥ, śūnya-agāreṣu yat-padam, bahu-janma-vipakvena, yoga-samādhinā, draṣṭuṁ yatante yatayaḥ, śūnya-agāreṣu yat-padam. Ladies, please. bahu-janma-vipakvena, samyag-yoga-samādhinā, yatante yatayaḥ, śūnya-agāreṣu yat-padam, bahu-janma-vipakvena, samyag-yoga-samādhinā, draṣṭuṁ yatante yatayaḥ, śūnya-agāreṣu yat-padam, bahu-janma-vipakvena, samyag-yoga-samādhinā, draṣṭuṁ yatante yatayaḥ, śūnya-agāreṣu yat-padam. Synonyms, please repeat. Bahu, many. Janma, after birth. Vipakvena, which is mature. Samyak, perfect. Yoga-samādhinā, by trance in yoga. Draṣṭuṁ, to see. Yatante, they endeavor. Yatayaḥ, the yogis. śūnya-agāreṣu, in secluded places. Yat, whose. Padam, feet. Translation purported by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Śrīmad Bhagavatam. After many births, mature yogis by complete trance in yoga endeavor in secluded places to see the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. Some important things are mentioned here about yoga. The word bahu-janma-vipakvena means after many, many births of mature yoga practice. And another word, samyag-yoga-samādhinā, means by complete practice of the yoga system. Complete practice of yoga means bhakti-yoga, unless one comes to the point of bhakti-yoga or surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one's yoga practice is not complete. The same point is corroborated in the Śrīmad Bhagavad-gītā, Bahūnāṁ, janmanām, ante. After many, many births, the jñānī, who has matured in transcendental knowledge, surrenders unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Kardama Muni repeats the same statement. After many, many years and many, many births of complete practice of yoga, one can see the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord in a secluded place. It is not that after one practices some sitting postures he immediately becomes perfect. One has to perform yoga a long time, many, many births, to become mature. And a yogi has to practice in a secluded place. One cannot practice yoga in a city or in a public park and declare that he has become God simply by some exchange of dollars. purchase yoga title. Interesting idea, right? This is all bogus propaganda. Those who are actually yogis practice in a secluded place, and after many, many births, they become successful provided they surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the completion of yoga. Hare Krishna. So these are the words of Kardama Muni, who achieved his perfection in yoga because he was instrumental in bringing to this world the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kapila Dev. And now he is offering his prayers to his exalted son, actually to the Supreme Lord. And he is ready to embrace the final stage of his life, renunciation. And Kapila Dev is ready to start his transcendental teachings, which will begin from the next chapter onwards. And this statement, Bhagavatam has different statements, and some of the statements are very fundamental, and some are, you can say, just occasional statements. And this statement is pretty fundamental. And anyone who gave Bhagavatam classes has this experience that sometimes you might think what to say on a specific verse, but oftentimes you have to think what not to say because the time is limited and you cannot cover everything the verse and purpose covers. So I think this verse belongs to the second category. So I won't be trying to say too many things. But let's read this verse again and discuss very important topic, the most important topic in our life, which is yoga. Bahu-janma-vipakvena samyag-yoga-samādhinā draṣṭuṁ yatante yatayaḥ śūnya-agāreṣu yat-padam. After many births, mature yogis by complete trance in yoga endeavor in secluded places to see the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So many of you know the meaning of the word yoga, and in this sense we are much more fortunate than most of the so-called yogis who think that yoga is the name for Indian gymnastic exercises, right? So we, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and our previous acharyas, we know the meaning of the word yoga. So what is the most important meaning Srila Prabhupada gave us? Link or connection. And we know, and I wanted to invite all of you to take part in the discussion. If connections are important in our lives, and what kind of connections are important and why. But before we go into this one, and yes, in relation, speaking about connections, today is special day Ganga Puja. So 3G connection used to be very popular a few years ago. And we have 3G today. Guru Ganga Gauranga. Because we are in the holy place of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. By the mercy of our most important guru, our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada, And of course, today we celebrate Ganga Puja. But we know that nowadays 3G connection is not very fast, is not very steady, right? Everybody wants 5G. So 3G, surprisingly enough, Guru Ganga Gauranga may not be enough. What are the 2 G's missing? It's there, but there are 2 even more important G's. And these are genuine guidance. You might say, if I have Guru, I already supposed to have genuine guidance. But it may not be necessarily. I may have Guru somewhere, and I may have Guru only as a picture on my altar, but following false guidance of my mind or somebody else's mind, which is not very genuine. And so even if I have Guru Ganga Gauranga, even if I live in Sridham Mayapur, I can be in complete Maya. So unfortunately, it's not very uncommon to be in Maya in Mayapur. Of course, we're always in Maya, but it always depends which Maya, right? Because there are 2 Mayas, and one is very desirable Maya, and the other Maya is very dangerous, right? Which Maya we should strive for? Yoga Maya. And which Maya we should avoid? Mahamaya. So yeah, that's why genuine guidance is really important in our lives. Everything depends on that single point. And so, but let's discuss the, before we go into that, there is another short point which actually not many Western people know this translation of the word yoga, but in India, any school child learns from the very early age very practical and very simple meaning of the word yoga, which is plus. So it's quite amazing. Yoga means addition. Yoga means achievements. That's also a translation of the word yoga. And minus is vi-yoga or losses. These are vi-yoga. So yoga is a very powerful word. But coming back to the core translation of the word yoga, which is connection or link. Anyone can give us some important connections or links we cannot live without in our lives? Please. Prabhu? Two. Yeah. Yeah, connection. Connection between 2 people, yes. Family connection. One yoga, one kind of yoga. Social connections. Anyone else can suggest any connections which are important in our lives? Can someone repeat? Connection with devotees, very important, right? Yes, connection with devotees. To connect with ourselves, okay? Connect with our soul, or realize that we are the soul and not the body. That's also important yoga. Any other types of yoga or connections in our lives? Connection with the Supreme Lord, of course, most important yoga. What about connecting words into sentences? Is it important to be able to connect the words into sentences and sentences into something meaningful? Right. There is another really important yoga that is neuron connections in our brain, right? In Russia, where I come from, they joke that most important connection in your life is neuron connections. And for us it is very relevant because Bhakti Yoga, we are practicing the topmost yoga system, is equivalent of Buddhi Yoga, yoga of intelligence. And so if our neuron connections are weak, it is very unlikely that we can become successful in our Bhakti Yoga practice also. An ultimate connection, ultimate connection, of course, is our connection with the Supreme Lord, but probably second important connection is body and soul connected, right? Because once that connection is broken between body and soul, what do we call this situation? Death. And once this connection is active, we call it life, right? So we can understand that yoga means life. And yoga is death, literally. So this is how important yoga is everything in our lives. And of course, the most important yoga is to connect ourselves to the Supreme Lord. And how do we do that? How do we connect ourselves to the Supreme Lord? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That's our standard answer. But any of you experience that you might be chanting Hare Krishna, but not really even remembering the Supreme Lord, not even thinking about the Supreme Lord? Anyone had this experience? Okay, of course, yeah. Not many of you, but some of you had this experience. So chanting of Hare Krishna, we can understand, is also not enough to fully connect to the Supreme Lord. What is missing? What is the difference between chanting, which connects us to the Supreme Lord, or, as we say, lip service, just producing sounds without actually connecting with the Lord in our consciousness? Offenses. Attention, yes, very good. Attention, yes. And of course, in our practice, there are so many things to help us keep attention, keep our focus: deities, devotees, services, Bhagavatam, unlimited way to help us focus on Krishna. And yet we still discover that despite of all these factors, any of you had this experience that even in the temple, in front of the deities, and even amidst kirtan or listening to Bhagavatam, which is the same thing, right? Because Bhagavatam is also glorification of the Supreme Lord. You might be completely distracted and not at all focused on anything connected to Krishna. Anyone had this experience? So, how do we establish our attention? How do we focus? And this is the essence of bhakti yoga practices, right? That Padma Purana says, Smartavyo Satatam Vishnur. Padma Purana or Vishnu Purana? Anyway, Puranas, they give this very important statement. Smartavyo Satatam Vishnur Vismritavi na jatuchi Sarva Vidi Nishedam Syureta Yoreva Kinkara. That whatever we do is only meant to achieve two goals. One is to think of Krishna always and never forget him at any time. So this is the goal of our practices. Anyone ever wondered how do you focus on Krishna always and never forget him? Not many people, not many devotees actually do. I mean, myself, for the first quite a number of years, I never worried about it, thinking of Krishna. I was just thinking, I'll just follow the process and everything will happen automatically. But then after quite a few years, I discovered it doesn't work this way. Facilities are there, but whether I am focused on Krishna or not, that's totally up to me. And so unless I make conscious endeavor, effort to focus, it will not happen. And of course, for everything we require motivation. So how do we motivate ourselves? Or enthuse ourselves, right? We know that enthusiasm is most important factor in our spiritual advancement. Utsahan nishayat daryat tat karma pravartanat. So how do we motivate, how do we inspire ourselves or even understand for the beginning the need to actually make conscious effort to always remember Krishna and never forget him? Anyone wants to give us any suggestion? Prabhu? Can we have microphone? It will be easier for everyone to hear.
Hare Krishna. So every, as it says in Bhagavad-gītā, I'm the taste of water. So you got to drink water pretty well. Oh, there's a good chance that you can remember Krishna when you drink water.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Prabhu. Yes, Srila Prabhupada says that Krishna is everywhere, Krishna is in everything. And actually, the 7th chapter of Bhagavad-gītā, this is what it starts with, right? Rasoham apsu kaunteya, right? In the early, very early, in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad-gītā, which is the first chapter on bhakti-yoga, Krishna says, I'm the taste of water. And so, Jai Shri Shri Radha Madhavasta Sakya Vrinda Giriraj Govardhan Ki Jai, Shri Gauranga Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. And so, actually, chapter 6 finishes with a very important verse, which is in line with our subject, that bhakti yoga is the best, the topmost yoga system. And His Grace Kalakanta Prabhu rendered Bhagavad-gītā in poetry. So we'll read the poetic translations of these verses. Yogina bapi sarvesham madgatena antaratmana sadavan bhajate yomam samyukta tamomataha. Of all yogis, one with faith who fixes me in mind, intimately serving me, affectionate and kind, though perceived by others as a low and simple minion, is indeed the greatest yogi. That is my opinion. And then famous first verse of the 7th chapter, which is an absolute champion in the number of classes Srila Prabhupada ever gave on one specific verse, right? I think something close to 30 classes on this verse alone. 7.1, because it opens the door into bhakti yoga, so it's really important verse. And anyone who knows the Sanskrit of this verse, let us chant it together. How does it start? Mayava manapartha yogam yunjan vadashraya asamshayam samagram mam yatha gyasesitat shrinu. Listen, dear Arjuna, you can ease your doubtful mind, thinking of me always as your knowledge is refined. So it's really important to understand how do we remember Krishna and see Krishna everywhere and in everything. So that should be our conscious practice, right? Of course, in here in Mayapur, it's quite easy, right? That everything is reminding you of Krishna. Even the birds here, if you listen carefully, what do they chant? Holy names, right? Next time, listen to the birds carefully, you will hear them chanting the holy names. Why? Because Srimati Radharani ordered them to do so, right? Because we're in the place, most sacred place of all. I mean, other holy places are the places the Lord performed His pastimes. But Sridham Mayapur, Navadvip, is the place created personally by Srimati Radharani for Krishna's pleasure. And she even played a flute in Navadvip to attract Krishna. And she brought so many birds, and she ordered all the birds to chant, to sing the holy names. So it's unbelievable holy place, unique holy place. So it's very easy to remember Krishna always and never forget Him in Mayapur. But how do you remember Krishna outside of Mayapur? It's quite easy. Look at the sun, and what the sunshine, golden sunshine, should remind us of. Gauranga. Right. And why Gauranga is golden? Because Srimati Radharani is of a golden color, right? So look at the sun, and the sunshine should remind us of the golden color of Srimati Radharani. And devotees were asking Srila Prabhupada, why the sky is blue? What Srila Prabhupada said, anyone can guess? Because Krishna is blue. So look at the sky, and you can immediately remember Radha Krishna, right? Huh? Clouds of Balaram, very good. And if you are somewhere in a forest or in a park where there is a lot of greenery, anyone notice that it is so pleasant to be in the green area, and it's so stressful to be in some place without any trees, without any plants? Anyone notice that? So green color, we cannot live without green color. And anyone knows what green stands for? Rama, Ramachandra. There is something connected to our Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition. Green stands for. Anyone knows? Huh? Separation. Not exactly. Anyone would like to know what the green stands for? Srila Rupa Goswami says, green color is the color of conjugal love of Radha Krishna. That's why it's so exciting, it's so nice to be in a green area, even though we don't understand. But this is our nature, right? To be connected with the green. And it's interesting that green, they say, green behind the ears, right? Someone who is not very mature. So we're supposed to be like that. We're supposed to be always learning. And if we think, we're supposed to think ourselves as immature, then we will develop spiritually. But if we think we are mature, what will happen next? Rotting process begins. After we think we are mature, then we start rotting, right? That's why Srila Prabhupada says, we either become purified, or if we do not become purified, we start getting putrefied, right? So Prabhupada really liked those play of words, purified, putrefied, so it's one or the other. If we think we are green, we are immature, then we can develop spiritually. If we think we are mature, that's it. This is the end of our spiritual advancement. So, yeah, like that. All colors are actually connected to Krishna. And all numbers are connected to Krishna. And numbers are also important. It's interesting that in India, school children, they learn yoga, viyoga, when they learn math, operating numbers. And I came across a very wonderful book quite some time ago, which was called Nectar from Numbers. I don't know if any of you came across that. I don't see it anymore, but it's a very exciting book because it explains how all the numbers are connected to Krishna. And numbers play a very important role in our lives, right? We always want to know the date, how old, how much, all these things, right? It's always very important. And so all the numbers are connected to Krishna. And because we are in Gaura Desha, they're also connected to Gaura. Let's see if anyone can tell us. Number one, how is it connected to Gaura? Hare Krishna once? Oh, Radha and Krishna are one. Yes, Radha and Krishna in one person. True. And also, Gaura is one and most important Supreme Lord for our day and age, right? Gaura should always be number one on our priority list. And two is pretty easy. Mahaprabhu Sri Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nahayanya, right? Gauranga Mahaprabhu is none other than Radha Madhav. That's why they stand together. This is the idea, to help people understand that Radha and Krishna and Gauranga are the same personalities. And three, number three, how is it connected to Gaura? Where did he move to stay for the second half of his life? Jagannath Puri. Any idea? Number three? Yeah, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra. Very good. Number four? Whom did Gauranga Mahaprabhu empower in Navadvip? Four acharyas of Vaishnava Sampradayas. If you go to Sri Chaitanya Math, you will see around the altar of Gandharvika Giridhari there are four acharyas of Vaishnava Sampradayas, and each of them met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu here in Navadvip. And of course, number five, you don't have to think very hard. It's just next hall, Shri Shri Panchatattva Ki Jai. And number six should be pretty easy also. Six Goswamis, very good. And number seven is a bit more tricky. Seven notes, Sarigama Padani. And the perfection of music. How is it connected to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Kirtan. Using music in the Lord's service. It all started in Shiva Sangam, right? And then spilled all over the planet, all over the universe, and continues to grow. Number eight, I don't think you have to think very hard. Ashtasaki. Number nine, eight, Navadvip also, right? So many eights connected to Gaura. And number nine, Navadvip, very good. And 9 islands of Navadvip connected to, Navavida Bhakti, 9 processes of devotional service. And who spoke about Navavida Bhakti? Who spoke about Navavida Bhakti? Who was the first one? Prahlad Maharaj, right here, in front of you. So 9 is Prahlad Maharaj also. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu loved hearing about Prahlad Maharaj and Dhruva Maharaj as well, right? And number 10, 10 incarnations. And most important of the 10 incarnations for us is who? Who is the most important of the Dasa avatars? Nrsingadev, right. Why Nrsingadev? Because he removes all obstacles on our path, right? He is in charge of anartha nivriti. If you want your heart to be purified, this is the surgeon right here. He can purify our hearts. And this is what we are praying for, right? That's why we say, Bahir Nisinga Hridaya Nisinga. Let Lord Nrsingadev be not only outside, but also let him be in our hearts, because then our hearts will be pure. Hare Krishna. So there's a few ways, simple ways, how we can try to keep our minds focused on Krishna, maya sakta, manapartha. Let's see if there are any, of course, it's a big topic, but let's see if there are any comments, suggestions, questions if we have.
Thank you, Maharaj, for the nice comment. And I discover why we like green. Thank you for the explanation. You should also have spoken about why we like the blue sky. Why the sky is blue? Maybe there's an explanation, can you say? Or
Yeah, I think we mentioned when Srila Prabhupada was asked why the sky is blue, he said because Krishna is blue. That's why the sky is blue.
I think I read also in Rupa Goswami, Radha Krishna Ganodesha Dipika, that blue, the blue comes from Krishna's body, but the yash, the fame, the renown of Krishna becomes blue sky, of yash, of his fame.
Yes.
So I can say.
And blue is very interesting, right? That for some reason, in English language, there is a saying, out of the blue, right? They don't say out of the green, out of the red. Somehow they say out of the blue. So out of the blue means I didn't plan it, I didn't expect it. Someone else planned, right? Who planned blue? Planned it. Yes.
Thank you very much, Maharaj. Thank you. It's mentioned in the verse, and it's mentioned throughout Bhagavad-gītā in different texts, that only after many births can we attain mature yoga practice. But Prabhupada did mention that we can go back in one lifetime.
Yes.
So could you discuss on this point?
Yes. Normally, it takes many, many births for spiritual perfection. And I actually wanted to touch on very important example which Srimad Bhagavatam gives in the 12th canto in relation to Markandeya Rishi, very famous Vedic sage, who achieved the darshan of the Supreme Lord. That's chapter 9, right? Discusses. Chapter 8 and 9 are discussing that. And he was, and the Lord said, "Can I do anything for you? Can I fulfill some of your desires?" And he said, "I'm very curious to see how your Maya is acting." And the Supreme Lord said, "Are you sure?" He said, "Yes." He said, "Okay." And then he left, and some time have passed, and then heavy rain started pouring from the sky, and the ocean swelled and flooded everything, including his ashram. And he was in these waters of, universal flood. And because he got this blessing to live for a very long time, he couldn't even die in those waters. And he was suffering and suffering. And finally, and he was perfect yogi, right? And finally, he saw an island and a huge banyan tree on the island, and there was a little boy lying on a banyan leaf, and he was sucking his toe. And Markandeya Rishi, he came to this island, and he became very attracted to this boy, and this boy was of a blue color, and he had lotus eyes, so obviously it was the Supreme Lord. But he came closer, and then this boy inhaled, and he went inside of the boy. And then he saw universe. He saw his own ashram, he saw everything, and he was very surprised. And then this boy exhaled, and he again saw him in front of his eyes, and he realized this is the Supreme Lord, so he wanted to come and embrace him, but then everything vanished, and he discovered himself back to his ashram. And then Shiva and Parvati, they were very surprised by his level of spiritual advancement, that he could even survive Maya, display of Maya. And they asked him, "You want any benediction?" And he said, "I only want to be focused on the Supreme Lord now." So he lost his interest towards Maya after this episode. But we understand that Navadvip Bhava, Navadvip Dham Mahatmya, Bhaktivinoda Thakur also describes similar episode, how Markandeya Rishi, he came to the island and he saw the banyan tree. The little boy is not described there, but Surabhi cow was there who nourished him. And then he was inquiring how to achieve spiritual perfection. And Surabhi told him that this is the eternal place of Gaura. And so if you chant the name of Gaura, you can attain full perfection. And so very quickly, Markandeya Rishi, by chanting the names of Gauranga, he became perfect. So we can understand that it's only by the mercy of Gauranga Mahaprabhu and of course his representatives. It's interesting that we hear from Srila Prabhupada disciples that he had special golden hue of a skin. Is that right? And so we can understand whose follower was he, of the golden Lord. And so by the mercy of Gauranga Mahaprabhu and Srila Prabhupada, we have full opportunity to advance very quickly in our spiritual lives. And it's very interesting that during one class, Srila Prabhupada said, in order to go back home, back to Godhead, you have to be 100% pure and devoted. And then he looked at his disciples who seemed to be a bit depressed and morose after hearing this statement. He said, okay, even if you're 90% pure, you can go back to Godhead. Disciples were a little bit encouraged, but not much. He said, okay, 80%. Even that didn't help. So I can't remember exactly what was the final number, but something like he was already, leaving, but then he turned around, he said, okay, 70%, but not less. Not less than that. Then you can go back home, back to Godhead. So, and also a famous statement of Srila Prabhupada, just hold on to my dhoti. I have a key to the back door of Goloka Vrindavan. So it's only causeless mercy of Srila Prabhupada, actually. There is one joke I can tell in the end. Would you like to hear a joke? Very quick one. That one devotee goes back home, back to Godhead. And then he faces Jai and Vijay at the doors of the spiritual world. And they tell him, you cannot enter here unless you qualify. And devotee says, what do I have to do? You have to give right answers to our questions. And you have to gain 100% marks for the right answers. And devotee said, okay, what is the question? And then they ask him, what have you done in your life that you think you deserved to go to the spiritual world, to live in the spiritual world. Devotee said, well, you know, for the last 50 years of my life, I distributed books every single day, even without any breaks. I didn't even take any holiday. Every day I was distributing books. And then Jay and Vijay look at their charts and they said, okay, you gain 12% marks. And the devotee says, for 50 years I gain only 12%? They say, yeah, this is what the paper says. Anything else you've done in your life to deserve going back home, back to Godhead? Devotee becomes a little less confident. He says, well, for the last 10 years of my life, I've chanted more than 64 rounds of japa. They look at their papers, they say, okay, 3% more. And then he becomes shocked. He said, 10 years of chanting of 64 rounds, only 10%? Only, you know, only that much? And they said, yeah, this is what the paper says. And then devotee becomes desperate and he says, with this kind of calculation, I can only count on causeless mercy of Guru and Gauranga. And they say, okay, this is the right answer. You gain 100% mark. You can enter now. So it's really important to always remember what is our hope. Hope for the hopeless is causeless mercy of Guru and Gauranga. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Our time, unfortunately, is over, and if anyone has any questions, comments, you're welcome to share them personally. Grantaraj Śrīmad Bhagavatam ki jai, Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Premanande.
जय अमल पुराण श्रीमद् भागवतम की